Hey there, business accelerators. How is everybody doing out there? Happy January 12th already. We're almost halfway through the month already of 2021.
Today's
Gosh.
actually my mom's birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Linda.
Hey, Linda.
So we talked last week about the first part of our four-part series about really digging into what an OBM or an online business manager is. So the first week's topic was about operations management and what that means, handling the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities, supervising everything from the team to the projects and the operations and the tasks and timelines and deadlines, and just being that liaison between the owner and the rest of the team. You're basically in charge of everything that happens in the business and report back to the owner, and then report from the owner back down to the team, things that need to happen, scheduling, coordinating, that sort of thing.
The number one problem in business is always people.
Well, it's not just the type of people, but really, you're right. It's execution and the ability for a group of people to work and coexist as a team. We have people management, but the reality is it's team management. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. As a part of the responsibilities that an OBM has in day-to-day operations and scheduling, assigning tasks, and keeping all of that information together under the strategy of what you and the owner have put together, is you got to manage the team. So that really is a second part, and again, arguably the most important, because you're dealing with people, and you have people that have emotions, and you have people that have their own businesses. Because in this particular world, in the OBM or the virtual space, most of the people in the team, not always, but most of the time, they're independent contractors that are hired for very specific tasks and responsibilities. And so because they're not a W-2 employee, they're not a direct line employee to the owner, they also have other clients and they have other responsibilities, they have things to do. So being able to put yourself in a position as the OBM to know what your team of contractors or subcontractors schedules are, what their responsibilities are, keeping them on task on those, making sure that you have a system in place that, especially if you have a project that requires multiple different people that have different skill sets. Maybe you're working on a project that requires an extreme amount of copywriting, so you need your copywriter to provide the content. You may need some very specific graphic design, so maybe you have a graphic designer, and then maybe you have a third person that's Facebook ads or social media posting and that sort of thing. So as the OBM, you have to ensure that these team members are working together in alignment. And so managing that task, managing their schedules, ensuring that a project is moving forward so that the team is not being held back by someone else because the OBM didn't necessarily take into account, as they're working on a project, that one person who's vital to the success of a particular project is going to be on vacation for a week, or they're out going to be sick, or someone's having a baby, so they're going to be out for a longer period of time, and not having a contingency plan in place. That's where the OBM steps in and says, I know exactly what's going on. I know who's available. I know when they're available. And you can coordinate those tasks within each other's schedules to ensure that everyone's pieces and parts get handled appropriately.
You know what's a funny sideline? So you just said babies. So it's been exactly 9 months since COVID first started, which is why in January they expect a huge influx of babies to be born.
Baby boomers too.
Which means y'all are going to have a lot of problems with people going on maternity leave pretty soon, or taking maternity leave, or whatever right. That looks like in a virtual world. So you always have to be able to deal with the, quote, problems, issues that people bring to any business. And the best way to deal with that is to always have what Randy likes to call the next man up. Who's that football player you were saying who played for the pro team that wasn't even really supposed to play?
Well, there was a situation back in early December where, in a football game with the Denver Broncos, and I don't recall who they were playing, but because of COVID protocol, and one of the quarterbacks tested positive, and the protocol was that they ended up in a meeting room, quarterback meeting, and every quarterback was in there and they weren't wearing masks. So therefore they had to go on to a protocol of quarantining for some period of time before they got their test and or test results back. So therefore they went into a game without a single quarterback available on their roster. So what they did, because you have to have a quarterback, right? You can't play a football game without it. They took someone off the practice squad, not even an everyday player. He's not a part of the normal roster. He only suits up to practice with the starters of the team, who happened to play some quarterback in high school and maybe even in some college, but he's actually on the practice squad as a wide receiver. He is the person they got tasked with stepping up and being the quarterback for a particular day because they did not have any available quarterbacks. He got to prepare for a professional NFL game, which takes weeks of game planning, study, strategy, not to mention the reps that happen starting from preseason on. He got 1 day's notice to prepare to be the starting quarterback of an NFL team. Now, he didn't necessarily perform very well, as you can imagine, but he got a lot of respect for being the person that was willing to step up, take on the responsibility, and make the best of a very bad situation. That's where the OBM comes in, is because that person, the OBM, knows exactly what's going on with the team. We'll go back to the maternity thing. You know pretty far in advance when a window when you can expect that a person's going to be out. So maybe you coordinate, you have some future project. We're not ready for their work necessarily, but you can anticipate that, gosh, in 6 weeks, I'm going to lose this person either as the mother or the father because of the birth of a child. And so you can say, hey, let's really ramp up your workload. Let's get your part of the future projects done now so that when you're out on maternity leave, we're good. We have your part done. Then when we get to the project, then the other people that are still actively working and are available can finish the projects, and you can merge them together. And these are just a few of the things that an OBM would do in terms of team management, is knowing exactly who's available, when they're available, what their hours are. Because again, if you're a virtual based company and you're a contractor, you have the autonomy to work when you want. So many people, if you're at home with a child in virtual school, maybe you spend a few hours with them and you do your work at 8 o'clock at night until 11 after all the kids are in bed when it's quiet. That's okay. But the OBM needs to know that, so that if there's a deadline or a question that needs to be answered, you're not firing them a question at 8 o'clock in the morning and then getting upset because you don't have an answer until 8 o'clock at night, because that's when they've chosen to work, right? So just being aware of what the team, when the team chooses to work, how they choose to work, what days of the week, or do they take a particular day off for some particular reason? And again, coordinating all of these things. And so imagine having a team of 8, 10, 15, who knows what the number is. If we're one person, in particular, the owner of the business, whose time is spent doing profit generating activity, maybe as an online coach, their time is limited. So for them to be able to manage all of that and take care of all the day-to-day responsibilities is incredibly difficult as the owner or CEO of the business. And you as the OBM, or we as the OBM get to step in and assume those day-to-day tasks and responsibilities. We manage it all and make sure that everything happens seamlessly.
Seems like that's one of the biggest things people don't like to do when they're in the position of managing people, is like dealing with the people's actual problems. Like I can't come to work today because Bobby's sick, or my grandma's in the hospital, all that kind of situation.
Yeah, the reality is that is reality, right? People get sick, things come up, emergencies happen. We can't control most of those. Some things I suppose we possibly can. But the more involved you are with your team and the more communication that you have, so that when you have a situation, especially if it's a last minute, an emergency situation, you as the OBN, you've got a backup plan. You're always prepared. You've got somebody that can step in. Maybe it's you, maybe it's us. We step in for a short period of time until we can get a replacement. That is the value of what an OBM does, is managing all those pieces and parts.
And the positive side of people management is that that's usually where you have the opportunity, if you're one of these people that likes to help grow and develop people. The positive side of being an OBM is you get to help make sure that people who start to work for whatever company it is you're talking about have the opportunity to grow so that they stay. Because the number one reason people leave in jobs or situations in the virtual space is because they feel unappreciated, or they've kind of outgrown the role and they become bored or stagnant. And so the positive side of people management is you get to figure out what makes that person tick and where they're trying to go. Because the more engaged you can make the contractor, or I don't know what you want to call them, team member, the more likely they're going to stay, which means you don't have to keep training people constantly.
Yeah, and the other side of that, if we go back to a football analogy, is you get to surround yourself with a team of people that you know, you like, and that you know that you work well with. So football coaches do it all the time. A head football coach gets fired or he quits or whatever, and he goes on to a different team. And if he is a widely respected and well-loved coach, guess what happens?
All the assistant people follow him.
Most of the assistant coaches go with him. And that's a great sign of what a leader is and how he treats the rest of his team. Same thing for you or even us as an OBM. When you're in the position to be able to do the client, or excuse me, the team onboarding, whether it's replacing someone that was on the team or you're simply adding someone to the team for something that didn't exist, you're heavily involved in the interviewing and validating of that person. And you obviously have a circle of people that you work with, collaborations, referrals, people that you know get the job done. You know the quality of work, you know their work ethic, you know how they do it, you know when they work. It's a great person to bring in to work with you because you already have a working relationship. And by the way, because you already do have some work history with them, that transition to be able to get them into your system that much quicker is just, it's just that. It's quicker, more seamless.
If you haven't checked out our website, it's called thetruenorthconsulting.com. If you go under free resources, there's 2 free downloads you might want to check out. One is about SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a good way for your company to figure out what your problems are, what you're good at, where you could grow, and where you need to watch out for your competitor coming for you. And the other one is about you can download a quick and easy way to manage your team using a Trello board, which is what we use for all of our OBM clients. And that's actually only $97, which is super cheap considering how long it took to pull it all out of Randy's brain and put it on paper.
Yeah, it's amazing as a team management board because really is your communication hub with anyone and everyone on the team, from obviously yourself to any team member at whatever position and responsibilities they have, along with the owner. And everyone on the team knows exactly who's working on what, deadlines, you can schedule, you can assign tasks to people. There's a spot where you can put your scheduled time off. Excuse me. It really is the hub of what you can do for your business operations. And again, for $97, it's a great investment, very user-friendly. It's got instructions everywhere. It tells you exactly how to use it. Very simple, easy to use. So we would highly recommend that you check that out.
If you missed the video from last week, that's obviously about operations management, which before you can manage a bunch of people, you have to figure out how you're going to manage your operation. And then next week in the group, we're going to talk about managing projects, which would be like any kind of new program or incentive you're going to roll out with your team, how to use an OBM for that so that you, as the high income producing activity person, don't waste your time managing an operation.
Yeah. So next week, tune in. If you have any questions, join our Facebook group, Accelerate Your Business with the True North Consulting. We'd love to see you there. There's a lot of additional free resources. And otherwise, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.